certainly for this inauguration, the amount of security that is in Washington, D.C. is unprecedented, either with the amount of National Guard troops there, 25,000, as has been reported, thousands of federal, state, local law enforcement, other Homeland Security officials. So this is a large-scale mobilization of security resources to make sure there is a full extent of security, the fullest extent of security possible to make sure nothing happens tomorrow.
And what's the process involved in vetting all 25,000 National Guard members? How thorough is it?
I know that has been reported, and there seems to be some who seem alarmed by that. But having come from that world, not the military, but the national security world of the United States, this is more of a routine step that happens when people come from one part of the country to another, or if at a particular moment the FBI or other security agencies decide to screen individuals. I went through similar screenings multiple times in my own career, so I'm not as concerned about the screening. And again, given the large amount of security personnel on the ground, this is just another prudent step to make sure that people who are there have the right or the reason to be there, and there's no one with an extremist background or even a criminal background.
And Javed, what kind of security issues might arise in the lead up to the inauguration and during the event?
Well, that's always hard to predict in advance, and hopefully the answer is there are no issues. But given the siege now almost 2 weeks ago at the Capitol, that is the worst case model I believe the security planners have prepared for. That's why we've seen this large scale deployment. But between now and tomorrow here in the States, there's a whole range of scenarios that could happen. But I'm confident that the planners have the right amount of resources on the ground. And if anything were to occur, unlike what happened 2 weeks ago, there are clearly enough personnel and resources on the ground to disrupt a threat or respond to it if indeed one develops.
How do they actually prepare? Guard members are getting training on how to identify potential insider threats, but what specifically do you think they'll be looking out for?
So the planning for an event like this started months ago, and the #2 person at the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, said it started 8 months ago. So in that process, the security planners have tried to think through every potential contingency. How should they respond to those contingencies given the resources they have available to them? And now, more recently, with the 25,000 Guard troops, there's specific steps that those troops can go through to make sure that if they see something suspicious, they know how to react to it, they know who to call. With the military, there's a chain of command. People can't just act independently. So there's established processes for the Guard troops and other resources to respond should they need to react quickly.
And given all these threats, in your view, do you think the security arrangements are sufficient? Do you think there should have been more changes to the way the event will be carried out? For example, would holding it indoors in a secure location, for example, have been a good, safer option?
Yeah, that's another interesting question, Yvonne. And clearly, President-elect Biden and his team must have thought through the implications of holding some portions of it outside versus completely, or having it completely be inside. I don't say this with any insider perspective, but I suspect that the reason why there's even a limited outside aspect to the inauguration is to show strength, resiliency, that the president-elect and his team will not be deterred by any threats. And again, because there's so much security, the potential for something happening is relatively low. So I can see from an optics perspective that how the new team would want to have some portion of it outside. But in the world of counterterrorism, and that's where I spent my professional career, you're never going to have complete 100% security. It's very hard to get to that. So what you try and do is buy down as much risk as you can, try to cover the threats that you think are most probable or most likely, and then just let events unfold as they may, but also build in enough flexibility where, again, if something happens, that you can respond to it quickly before it becomes even worse.
And what are attendance numbers expected to be like? What security checks will those attending be required to undergo?
So the numbers apparently are going to be much, much smaller than in years past. So that will make it much easier, I would think, to screen people, the limited amount of people who will be in attendance. And again, with a very large number of resources on the ground to provide different levels of security and different security-related missions, that issue will not, I don't believe that will be as big as a challenge as in perhaps years past. So that's one of the upsides of holding it outside. There's a much smaller number of people who will be there, but an exponentially higher number of security resources to deal with that small number of people.
Javed Ali, thanks so much for your insights. We really appreciate it, and we do hope it all goes smoothly. Thanks so much.
Thank you.